Hey guys, this is Mr. H. Hey, I wanted to do a quick video on how to learn how to rearrange formulas. That's the learning target. Some of my students have struggled with this, so I wanted to do a quick video with a few examples to try to help. All right, first thing, in order to rearrange formulas, you got to know PEMDAS. You got to know that parentheses is first, exponents is second, multiplication and division are on the same level, they're third, addition and subtraction are on the same level and they're fourth. Now, I put parentheses up here. Everyone knows what parentheses are, but this one to the right, the x plus 2 divided by 3, that also has parentheses, but it's implied. So basically, when you see something like this, I call this a stack fraction. It basically is saying that the x plus 2 goes together first, and then you divide by 3. Okay, that's what that means. So basically there is a implied parentheses there. All right, now second thing that you need to know is you need to know inverse operations. And this is pretty simple. You learn this probably in third or fourth, fifth grade. The opposite of addition is subtraction, and the opposite or the inverse of subtraction is addition. And you can see I have arrows going in both directions to indicate that. The inverse of multiplication is division, and the inverse of division is multiplication. The inverse of squaring a number is taking the square root, and the inverse of square rooting a number is squaring it. All right, and I also just threw this one in for kicks. The inverse of cubing a number is taking the cube root, and the inverse of cube rooting a number is cubing it. So once you know that, you're ready to basically handle almost any question you'll see on the Regents. So now let's look at a couple examples. So in this first example, we have the formula P1 times V1 equals P2 times V2, and they want us to get P2 by itself. That's the first thing we know. So it's going to be P2 equals, and we know that we're going to have P1 and V1 on the other side because we want to get everything on the other side. All right. Now, the question is, what do we do from here? Well, you can see that we are multiplying P2 by V2. So that's the first thing you say. I'm multiplying by V2. And what's the inverse? Well, the inverse is to divide by P2 or V2. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to come down here and you're going to divide this by V2. And that's it, because that's the only thing that's being done that you got to get rid of. All right, so we're done with that one. All right, here's another one. Now this one is the simple interest formula. We got I is equal to P times R times T, and they want us to get R by itself. So that's the first thing we know. R is going to be equal to, we know we're going to have I on the other side. Now we got to figure out, what do we do with the P and the T? Well, what are we doing? What is the P and the T doing to the R? Well, we're multiplying R by P, and we're also multiplying R times T. So that's what you say, we're multiplying. Now you could do this in 2 steps, but I'm going to do it in 1. I'm going to say we're multiplying R by P times T. So what's the opposite? Well, the opposite is to divide by P times T. And that's what we do. And we're done. We are done. And the answer would be this one. All right, let's try a couple more. All right, this one has a square in it. So we got V is equal to pi times R squared times H. Now they want us to get R by itself. So we're going to be R equals to, we know we're going to have a V on this side. We got to figure out what to do with the rest of it. So the first thing I say is, what's being done to the R? And you got to use PEMDAS. There's no parentheses. Are there exponent? Absolutely. So we're squaring. So very first thing that we're doing to the R is we're squaring it. What's the second thing that we're doing? Oh, we're multiplying it times pi, and we're multiplying it times H. So we're multiplying it times pi, and we're multiplying it times H. And remember, I can combine those two. So I'm going to say multiply by pi and by H. Now we're going to do the opposites, the inverse. So we're going to divide by pi times H, and we're going to take this square root. Now, so that's the inverse operation. Now we need to do the reverse. So we're going to do this first, the divide, and then we're going to do the square root second. So let's do that. So we're going to take V and divide it by pi over h. And then we're going to take the square root of that whole thing, and then we're done. And so our answer would be this one. All right. Now let me do a couple more, and hopefully we can finish up. So we got the formula A equals V sub F minus V sub I divided by T. Now they want us to get V sub F by itself. So we know we're going to have V sub F over here. And we also know there's going to be an A here. So we got to figure out what to do with the A. Now, remember, this is when you have a stack fraction that implies parentheses. So when we're looking for PEMDAS and what's being done to the V sub F, the first thing you should say, the first thing that's being done is we are subtracting V sub I. So we're subtracting this. And then the second thing that we're doing is we're dividing by T. Now, so we're going to do the inverse. So the inverse of dividing by T is multiply by T. And the inverse of subtracting is adding V sub I. And we're going to reverse the order. So this is going to happen first, and this is going to happen second. So let's do that. So we're going to multiply by T. So we multiply. So that's going to be A times T. And then we're going to add V sub I. And we are done. That is how you get the formula. You get V sub F by itself. There's nothing else to do there. All right, I'm going to do one more. Here we got Celsius and Fahrenheit conversion formula. And we got C equals 5/9 times the quantity F minus 32. And they want us to get F by itself. So it's going to be F is equal to, we know we're going to have a C, but we got to do something to the C. So what's the first thing that we need to do? Well, PEMDAS says we do the parentheses first. So we are, well, let's do this. We are subtracting 32, and then we are multiplying by 5/9. And we're going to do the inverse. So that's going to be divide by 5/9. And then we are going to add 32. And we're going to do the reverse order. So we're going to do this first, and we're going to do this second. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide C by 5/9. That one's done. And now we're just going to add 32. And now we're finished. Now, of course, you can simplify this a little further. You could do, when you divide by a fraction, you basically are multiplying by the reciprocal, but you don't need to do that for the exam. If you do this, this is good enough. You don't have to do anything else. If you do this, you will get full credit for this answer. All right. I hope that this has been helpful. Remember, you start by using PEMDAS to figure out what's being done to the variable that you're trying to isolate. And then you're going to do the inverse, and then you're going to do the reverse, and then you'll be done. All right, I hope this has been helpful, guys.